Okay, imagine this. A huge drama, right? Playing out like totally in public. We're talking early June 2025, and it's the astonishing collapse of a relationship between two figures who honestly, just months before, seemed like massive drivers of global politics, economics, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, of course. And it's wild because for a bit there, it looked like Trump actually, saw Tesla pretty favorably, Musk's big company, but then bam, it just fell apart. Insults, accusations, the whole thing, super fast. Now look, this isn't just about some personal fight, though. Yeah, maybe it's interesting to watch. But this feud, this very public thing, it's happening alongside a whole mix of other big factors. And it's genuinely putting pressure on Tesla. And here's the key bit. Tesla was already facing headwinds, grappling with challenges even before this Trump-Musk thing blew up. So our mission today on the deep dive, let's try and unpack all these layers facing Tesla. We need to look at the sales numbers, the competition heating up, those complex geopolitical things, and yeah, the direct fallout from that Trump-Musk spat. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's really important to get that context first. Tesla's problems didn't just start with this recent political drama. The company's actually been in a, well, let's say a difficult position, maybe even an unusual one, since the start of 2025, especially when you think about how dominant they were before, almost unchallenged in the EV world.
Difficult position.
Right.
Okay. But numbers usually tell the real story, right?
Yeah.
Can you give us some specifics? What figures really show this tough spot Tesla's in?
Oh, definitely. The sales figures are pretty stark. They really show a big shift. So Q1 2025, overall revenues dropped 9%. That's down from $21.3 billion to $19.3 billion compared to the year before. And the car sales part, their core business, that fell 20%, from $17.4 billion down to $14 billion.
20% on the core business. That's
Yeah, it is. And it's global. U.S. sales, especially California, which is huge for them, fell 31% year over year back in January. Europe, even steeper, down 43% year over year in Jan and Feb, and it kept falling, down about 28% in May. Now, okay, there's a little bump from the updated Model Y in places like Spain, Norway, Portugal, but the big markets, France, Italy, Sweden, Denmark, sales kept dropping for the 6th month straight.
6th month. Okay.
Yeah.
And China. You mentioned China.
Right, China, which isn't just any market for Tesla. It's arguably their most important one in this situation. It's actually much worse. Deliveries were down 29% in the first 2 months of 2025 compared to the same time in 2024. So the takeaway isn't just, oh, sales are slowing down. It's that they're losing market share in really key places. That points to a much bigger competitive threat than just, a temporary dip.
Right, losing share. So it's one thing for Tesla to stumble, but what about their competitors? Are they just holding steady, or are they actually, jumping on this opportunity?
Oh, they're jumping. It's a really sharp contrast. While Tesla's figures are down, their main rivals in Europe, like Volkswagen, BMW, and China's BYD, their sales have actually gone up during the same period.
Ah, okay. So they are gaining ground.
Definitely. And it's not just sales. You've also got, well, internal stuff at Tesla. Maybe a bit of a slowdown in innovation, delays with new models. And their global image, it seems like it's taken a bit of a hit. Plus, don't forget production costs. They've gone up because of those Trump administration customs duties on steel, aluminum, parts, batteries, imported stuff.
Wow, okay. That really is, as you said, quite a cocktail of challenges. But here's where it gets really interesting when we talk about China. That feels like such a critical piece here.
Absolutely critical. China, like I said, most important market.
Right.
And things are, much worse than elsewhere. Think about this. Tesla's share of yearly EV sales in China, it slid from 15% back in 2020 down to 10% in 2024.
And now?
First 5 months of 2025, it's down to 7.6%.
7.6%. But hold on, wasn't the Shanghai factory supposed to be this massive win for them? First wholly foreign-owned car plant in China. Seemed huge at the time. Did that somehow backfire?
Well, it was a huge win back in 2019, a landmark thing, no doubt. And that Shanghai Gigafactory, it became their biggest worldwide. It absolutely fueled this huge rise in sales and profits because costs were way lower, labor, parts, everything. However, when the Chinese government gave Tesla the green light for that plant, they had, let's say, a very shrewd plan.
Okay, shrewd how?
Their strategy basically was to use Tesla, use their technology, their know-how, their manufacturing experience to kind of feed their own domestic car makers. The goal was to help Chinese companies build advanced EVs, batteries, even self-driving tech that could eventually beat Tesla.
Right, so learn from the best to become the best. Has that actually worked out for them, or is China still playing catch-up?
Oh, it's worked, arguably beyond what many expected. You have people like Ross Gerber, CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management, pointing this out explicitly. China succeeded. And the result? You see these Chinese automakers now making EVs that really rival Tesla on efficiency, on tech. The big one, of course, is BYD. They actually overtook Tesla late last year, became the world's #1 EV seller. BYD's revenues, $107 billion. Tesla's, $97.7 billion.
Wow. Overtook them. And it's
Yeah.
not just BYD, right?
For others, exactly. You've got Xiaomi getting into the game, Geely, Zeekr, which is mostly owned by Geely too. The field's getting crowded, and they're good.
So it's the cars, but you also mentioned batteries earlier. That seems like a whole other battleground.
It is, and it's maybe even more critical. China basically dominates EV batteries now.
Yeah.
CATL, the world's biggest EV battery maker. They supply Tesla's Shanghai plant. And those batteries, those cells, they go into Teslas for China, but also get exported to Europe, to Canada. And interestingly, CATL was put on a U.S. Department of Defense list back in January. Companies supposedly owned or controlled by the Chinese military.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, that doesn't legally force U.S. firms to stop buying from them, but it definitely adds another layer of geopolitical headache to Tesla's supply chain.
Yeah, no kidding. That paints a really challenging picture even before we get to the latest political fireworks. It just shows how Musk's deep dive into politics has really gotten tangled up with Tesla's business. It's like watching it play out in real time.
It absolutely has. I mean, the backlash from Musk being so involved in Trump's campaign and then heading that government efficiency board, the DOGE board,
Ah, yes, DOGE, right.
that went on until early June. And the fallout was real. You saw protests growing, boycotts of Tesla, even some cars getting burned, especially among Democrats, particularly in California. That kept going right up until Musk stepped down from DOGE, about a month ago now.
And then came the big public fight in early June. What exactly set that off again, and what did it do to Tesla's stock price? It sounded pretty dramatic.
Yeah, the feud kicked off again because Musk came out really strongly against Trump's proposed tax cut and spend package. You know, the one passed the Senate, now battling through the House, extends the 2017 tax cuts, adds new breaks, cuts social, health, environmental spending in favor of more military funding and tougher immigration stuff. Musk basically called it the worst disaster for America, said it would add something like $3 trillion to the national debt.
Right, strong words.
Very. The immediate hit to Tesla, it was severe. When that feud first erupted in early June, Tesla's stock plunged 14%. Wiped out $152 billion in market value, just like that, from its then $1 trillion valuation.
$152 billion. Just put that in perspective for us.
Okay, get this. That loss, that $152 billion, it was more than the combined market caps of GM and Ford, plus Stellantis, the world's fourth biggest car maker.
Wow. That's staggering. It really shows how tied the company's value is to him and to political wins.
It absolutely does. It's not just a blip on the market. It's a huge signal about perception and valuation, especially for a company so linked to its founder.
So how did the board, the shareholders react? I mean, that kind of volatility must have been unnerving. Were they blindsided?
Rattled is probably a good word. Yeah, maybe caught a bit off guard. Because remember, earlier in the year, there's this sort of optimism, this feeling that Musk's good relationship with Trump, and Trump constantly talking up Tesla, even though he loves traditional cars, that this would actually help Tesla turn things around, reverse those sales declines. So this public blowup, a real shock, especially since the board doesn't seem to have much real control over Musk or what he says publicly, puts him in a tricky spot.
Yeah, it really does. Which leads to the big question a lot of people are probably asking. Can Trump actually, punish Tesla directly if he wants to, or is it mostly just noise?
Oh, he absolutely can.
Yeah.
Yes. As president, Trump has the whole weight of the federal government behind him, and he's shown he's willing to use it against people he sees as enemies, for instance. He could ramp up investigations already happening, like the NHTSA probes into Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving systems.
Right, those have been ongoing.
Exactly. Or he could push the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to look into Tesla based on Musk's public statements. I mean, Musk's habit of, airing everything on X, formerly Twitter, it's pretty counter to how most CEOs act, trying to be careful with their words. And definitely, Trump could try to influence any government support for Tesla or for Musk's other companies, like SpaceX. We have to remember, this isn't like previous presidents. Trump really seems to take perceived insults personally and doesn't shy away from retaliating using the power of his office.
Okay, so the threat is real. With all this pressure sales, China, politics, what are Tesla's options? How do they navigate this mess? Is there a clear path out?
Well, there are a few paths, but none are easy. Option 1, make peace with Trump. Trump fundamentally seems to respond to deference, to respect. Ignoring him, as we've seen, can have consequences. But Musk's opposition to that tax bill seems pretty entrenched right now. Maybe that changes if the bill sails in the House, but who knows?
Okay, so making peace is one route. What else?
Another path, and this seems like something Musk has been aiming for anyway, is to diversify Tesla, move beyond just being a car company. The idea is to make Tesla this multi-market future tech company, robotics, autonomous taxis, things like that. So it's less reliant on making and selling cars, which is still, what, 90% of their revenue?
Diversify. Okay, but are they actually leading in those new areas?
Yeah.
Robotics, self-driving. It sounds like a huge bet if they're playing catch up.
That's the catch. Many analysts would say Tesla is actually lagging in both those areas. Robotics. You hear names like Honda, Boston Dynamics being ahead. Autonomous driving. Waymo, that's the Google Alphabet company. Most experts think they're miles ahead of Tesla's system. So the ambition is definitely there, but the competition in those future markets, it's already really intense.
Hmm. Okay, we covered a lot of ground here. The challenges, the competition, China, the political drama. It sounds pretty daunting, honestly. So what does this all mean? Is Tesla still the giant it was, despite these warning signs? Or are we seeing the start of a real decline?
It's crucial to keep a balanced perspective here, because yes, there are lots of warning signs, serious ones, but fundamentally, Tesla is still a massive player, one of the world's biggest, most influential automakers. Its market cap still dwarfs the next 10 biggest car companies combined, the Model Y. Still the world's best-selling EV in 2025, across all its versions. And they pulled in nearly $100 billion in revenue last year.
Right. Those are still huge numbers.
Exactly. And the whole debate about Tesla's valuation, is it too high? That's always been there. Some say, yeah, based on car sales alone, it's overvalued. But others argue the value comes from its potential. It's tech-led in self-driving, AI, robotics, Musk's big bets on the future. So it's less a clear story of decline and more like a company under intense pressure, facing some really critical decisions. At a crossroads, maybe.
Yeah, Crossroads feels right. This deep dive really shows this incredibly complex mix, doesn't it? Market forces, global politics, and yeah, leadership challenges, even personalities playing such a huge role. It's clear that just having a cool product isn't always enough. These external factors can really shape a company's path.
Absolutely. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over. Think about Tesla's unique valuation. It's so heavily based on these future tech bets, right? AI, robotics. Now, layer on the political pressures we've discussed, the fierce competition. What does this deep dive really suggest about what truly drives long-term value for innovative companies today, especially in a world where tech changes lightning fast, but politics and market shifts can be just as unpredictable, maybe even more so?